Welcome back everyone. Today we are going to start the new chapter, that is chapter number 4, heat. In chapter 3 you learned that woolen clothes are made from animal fibers. You also know that cotton clothes are made from plant fibers. We wear woolen clothes during winters when it is cold outside. Woolen clothes keep us warm. We prefer to wear light colored cotton clothes when it is hot. These give us a feeling of coolness. You might have wondered why particular type of clothes are suitable for a particular season. So it is clear that when it is cold outside we wear woolen clothes, and when it is hot outside we wear cotton clothes which is light in color. So why we wear this, it will be explained. In winter you feel cold inside the house. If you come out in the sun, you feel warm. In summer, you feel hot even inside the house. How do we know whether an object is hot or cold? How do we find out how hot or cold an object is? In this chapter, we shall try to seek answer to some of these questions. So 4.1 is hot and cold. In our day-to-day life, we come across a number of objects. Some of them are hot and some of them are cold. Tea is hot and ice is cold. List some objects you use commonly in table 4.1. Mark these objects as hot or cold. So you can mark it here. Ice cream, spoon in a teacup, fruit juice, handle of a frying pan. So you can tick where it is hot and where it is cold. So it is clear, you can see. Do not touch the objects which are too hot. Be careful while handling a candle flame or a stove. So we should be careful when we are handling a candle or we are using a stove. We see that some objects are cold while some are hot. You also know that some objects are hotter than others while some are colder than others. How do we decide which object is hotter than the other? We often do it by touching the objects, but is our sense of touch reliable? Let us find out. So when we handle some objects are very hot when we touch it and some are very cold when we touch it. So with these activities you can find out that your sense of touch is how much powerful and how can you detect how much heated or colded the object is. Activity 4.1. Take 3 small tub containers. Label them as A, B and C. Put cold water in container A and hot water in container B. Mix some cold and hot water in container C. Now dip your left hand in container A and the right hand in container B. After keeping the hands in the two containers for 2-3 minutes, put both the hands simultaneously in container number C. Do both the hands get the same feeling? So this is a tub with cold water, this is a tub with hot water, and this is like mixture of hot and cold water. So after keeping the hand in both your hand, like left hand and right hand, in this, after 2-3 minutes you can transfer your hands to the container number C. Then record your feeling, how you feel your get your feeling in your hand. Bojo says my left hand tells me that the water in mug C is hot and the right hand tells me that the same water is cold. What should I conclude? Bojo's conclusion shows that we cannot always rely on our sense of touch to decide whether an object is hot or cold. Sometimes it may deceive us. So it is clear because when we put our hand in the A tub which was cold and in the B container it was hot water. So when we transferred it, our skin was very cold, right hand skin was very cold. So when we put it inside the mixture of A and B, like hot and cold water, it was feeling like very hot. So our sense of touch is not very reliable because it may deceive us. Then how do you find out how hot an object really is? A reliable measure of the hotness of an object is its temperature. Temperature is measured by a device called thermometer. So thermometer is used to measure the object's temperature. 4.2 measuring temperature. Have you seen a thermometer? Recall that when you or someone else in your family had fever, the temperature was measured by a thermometer. The thermometer that measures our body temperature is called a clinical thermometer. So the thermometer which we use during fever is called a clinical thermometer. Hold the thermometer in your hand and examine it carefully. If you do not have a thermometer, request a friend to share it with you. A clinical thermometers look like the one shown in figure 4.2. This is a clinical thermometer and these are the readings, and here there is a mercury filling. So you can see here the reading is coming. So a clinical thermometer consists of a long narrow uniform glass tube. It has a bulb at one end. This bulb contains mercury. Outside the bulb, a small shining thread of mercury can be seen. This is the shiny thread. If you do not see the mercury thread, rotate the thermometer a bit till you see it. You will also find a scale on the thermometer. The scale we use is the Celsius scale, indicated by degree Celsius, degree C. So it is very clear by the explanation about the thermometer. So Bojo wondered which of the two scales shown in figure 4.2 he should read. Piley told him that India has adopted the Celsius scale and we should read that scale. The other scale with the range 94 to 108 degree is the Fahrenheit scale, degree Fahrenheit. It was in use earlier, but now we use degree Celsius. A clinical thermometer reads temperature from 35 degree to 42 degree. Activity number 4.2, reading a thermometer. Let us learn how to read a thermometer. First, note the temperature difference indicated between the two bigger marks. Also note down the number of divisions shown by smaller marks. Between the marks, suppose the bigger marks read 1 degree and there are 5 divisions between them, then one small division can be read as 1 by 5 is equal to 0.2 degree. So it is very clear from the explanation. Wash the thermometer preferably with an antiseptic solution. Hold it firmly and give it a few jerks. The jerks will bring the level of mercury down. Ensure that it falls below 35 degree. Now place the bulb of the thermometer under your tongue. After 1 minute, take the thermometer out and note the reading. This is your body temperature. The temperature should always be stated with its unit, degree Celsius. What did you record as your body temperature? The normal temperature of human body is 37 degree. Note that the temperature is stated with its unit. Piley measured her body temperature. She got worried as it was not exactly 37.37 degree. So here are precautions while using a clinical thermometer. Thermometer should be washed before and after use, preferably with an antiseptic solution. Ensure that before use, the mercury level is below 35 degree. Read the thermometer keeping the level of mercury along the line of the side. So when we read the thermometer, you should always keep the level of mercury along the line of sight. So you can see the reading perfectly. Handle the thermometer with care. If it hits against some hard object, it can break. So we should handle the thermometer very carefully, otherwise it will break. Don't hold the thermometer by the bulb while reading. So you should not hold the bulb when you read the reading. Activity 4.3, measure the body temperature of some of your friends, at least 10, with a clinical thermometer. Record your observation as in table 4.2. You can record the like observations in the above table. Is the body temperature of every person 37 degrees Celsius? The temperature of every person may not be 37 degrees. It could be slightly higher or slightly lower. Actually, what we call normal temperature is the average body temperature of a large number of healthy persons. So they took numbers of person and they took the reading, and the average of that is that 37 degrees Celsius. So every person may have slightly upper or lower degree, that doesn't matter. The clinical thermometer is designed to measure the temperature of the human body only. The temperature of human body normally does not go below 35 degrees Celsius or above 42 degrees Celsius. That is the reason that the thermometer has the range of 35 degree to 42 degrees Celsius. Bojo got a naughty idea. He wanted to measure the temperature of a hot milk using a clinical thermometer. Piley stopped him from doing so. Do not use a clinical thermometer for measuring the temperature of any object other than the human body. Also avoid keeping the thermometer in the sun or near a flame, it may break. So it is specially designed to measure the human body temperature. So we should only use to measure human body by a clinical thermometer. 4.3 laboratory thermometer. So this is a laboratory thermometer in 4.4. How do we measure the temperature of other objects? For this purpose, there are other thermometers. One such thermometer is known as the laboratory thermometer. The teacher will show you this thermometer. Look at it carefully and note the highest and the lowest temperature in it. The range of a laboratory thermometer is generally from minus 10 degrees Celsius to 110 degrees Celsius. Also, you did it in the case of the clinical thermometer. Find out how much a smaller division on this thermometer reads. You would need this information to read the thermometer correctly. Let us now learn how this thermometer is used. So here is another thing. Different type of thermometers are used for different purposes. The maximum and minimum temperature of the previous day report in weather reports are measured by a thermometer called the maximum minimum thermometer. So for measuring the temperature outside of the weather, they use maximum and minimum thermometer. Activity 4.4. Take some tap water in a beaker or a mug. Dip the thermometer in water so that the bulb is immersed in water but does not touch the bottom or the side of the container. So you should dip it in such a way that it does not hit the bottom. The bulb should not be in the bottom of the mug. Hold the thermometer vertically as in figure 4.5. Observe the movement of mercury in the thermometer. Wait till the mercury thread becomes steady. Note the reading. This is the temperature of water at that time. Compare the temperature of water recorded by each student in the class. So you can compare it with a student. Are there any variations in the readings? Discuss the possible reasons. Let us try to answer this question. In addition to the precaution to be taken while reading a clinical thermometer, the laboratory thermometer should be kept upright, not tilted. So laboratory thermometer should always be kept perpendicular to the base. Bulb should be surrounded from all the sides by the substance of which the temperature is to be measured. The bulb should not touch the surface of the container. So the bulb should be in contact with the material or object which we are using, and it should not touch the ground level of the beaker or mug what you are taking. Activity 4.5. Take some hot water in a beaker or a mug. Dip the thermometer in water. Wait till the mercury thread becomes steady and note the temperature. Now take out the thermometer from water. Observe carefully what happens now. Do you notice that as soon as you take the thermometer out of water, the level of mercury begins to fall? This means that the temperature must be read while the thermometer is in water. So when you take out the thermometer out of the water, the mercury level goes down. So you should always take the reading when the bulb is inside the water. You may recall that while taking your own temperature, you have to take the thermometer out of your mouth to note the reading. Can you then use the laboratory thermometer to measure your body temperature? Obviously, it is not convenient to use laboratory thermometer for this purpose. Why does the mercury not fall or rise in a clinical thermometer when then it is taken out of the mouth? Observe a clinical thermometer again. Do you see a nick near the bulb? So in a clinical thermometer there is a nick. What is the use of a nick? It prevents mercury level from falling on its own. So this kind of nick is used so it does not allow the mercury to fall down quickly. So here is the nick. A clinical thermometer has a nick in it. There is a lot of concern over the use of mercury in thermometers. Mercury is a very toxic substance and is very difficult to dispose of if a thermometer breaks. These days, digital thermometers are available which does not use mercury. So mercury is a toxic substance and it is poisonous, and it is very difficult to dispose of because when the thermometer is broken, we cannot touch the mercury. Also, it is very like slippery. so it is very difficult. So now the digital thermometers are available, so that does not use mercury, so it is safe to use and dispose. 4.4 Transfer of heat. You might have observed that a frying pan becomes hot when kept in flame. It is because the heat passes from the flame to the utensil. When the pan is removed from the fire, it slowly cools down. Why does it cools down? The heat is transferred from the pan to the surrounding. So it is clear. So you can understand that in both cases the heat flows from a hotter object to the colder object. So the heat always flows from hotter object to the colder object. In fact, in all cases, heat flows from a hotter object to a colder object. How does the heat flows? Let us investigate. Pahili asks, does it mean that heat will not be transferred if the temperature of two objects are same? Activity 4.6. Take a rod or flat strip of a metal, say of aluminium or iron. Fix a few small wax pieces on the rod. These pieces should be at nearly equal distances. Figure 4.7 shows that there are equal the flow of heat through a metal strip. So there is wax and here is a candle. So clamp the rod to a stand. If you do not find a stand, you can put one end of the rod in between the bricks. Now heat the other end of the rod and observe what happens to the wax pieces. Do these pieces begin to fall? Which piece falls the first? Do you think that heat is transferred from the end nearest to the flame to the other end? The process by which the heat is transferred from the hotter end to the colder end of an object is generally called conduction. So it is called conduction because we are heating from here, and the first wax piece which was sticked here will fall down first because it was nearer. So it is from hotter side to heat is transferring to the colder side, so it will go first. This process is called conduction. In general, the heat is transferred from the process of conduction. Do all substances conduct heat easily? You must have observed that the metallic pan for cooking has a plastic or wooden handle. Can you lift a hot pan by holding it by the handle without getting hurt? So conduction of metal by different metal. So activity 4.7. Heat water in a small pan or a beaker. Collect some articles such as a steel spoon, plastic scale, pencil and divider. Dip one end of each of these articles in hot water. You can see it in the figure above. 4.8. Wait for a few minutes and touch the other end. Enter your observation in table 4.3. So in a beaker we have taken these things. The material which allow the heat to pass through them easily are conductors of heat. For example, aluminium, iron and copper. The material which do not allow heat to pass through them easily are poor conductors of heat, such as plastic and wood. So plastic and wood are very poor conductor of heat, and materials like iron, aluminium, copper are good conductor of heat. And the poor conductors are also known as insulators. The water and air are poor conductors of heat. So water and air are pure conductor of heat. Then how does the heat transfer take place in these substances? Let us find out. Activity 4.8. Take a round bottom flask. If flask is not available, a beaker can be used. Fill it 2/3 with water. Place it on a tripod or make some arrangement to place the flask in such a way that you can heat it by placing a candle below it. Wait till the water in the flask is still. Place a crystal of potassium permanganate at the bottom of the flask gently using a straw. Now heat the water by placing the candle just below the crystal. So in the beaker there is a potassium permanganate and the candle flame is just below the potassium permanganate. Write your observation in your notebook and also draw a picture of what you observe in figure 4.9. When water is heated, the water near the flame gets hot. The hot water rises up. The cold water from the side moves down towards the source of heat. This water also gets hot and rises and water from the sides move down. This process continues till the whole water gets heated. This mode of heat transfer is known as convection. So here is the example which we have given there. So here is the potassium permanganate and there is water. How does the heat travel in air? In which direction does the smoke goes? The air near the heat source gets hot and rises. The air from the side comes in to take its place. So the air which is near the heat source get heated and it passes above, and the air from the side takes its place. In this way, the air gets heated. The following activity confirms this idea. Activity 4.9. Light a candle, keep one hand above the flame and one hand on the other side of the flame. As in the figure 4.10, do your hand feel equally hot? If not, which hand feels hotter and why? Be careful, keep your hand at a safe distance from the flame so that they do not get burned. So this is the example. You keep your hand slightly above and on the side. Transfer of heat by convection in air. Notice that towards the top, the air gets heated by convection. Therefore, the hand above the flame feels hotter. On the side, however, there is no convection and air does not feel as hot as in the top. The people living in the coastal areas experience an interesting phenomena during the day. The land gets heated faster than the water. The air over the land becomes hotter and rises up. So air which are over the land becomes hotter and it rises up. The cooler air from the sea rushes in towards the land to take its place. The warm air from the land moves towards the sea to complete the cycle. You can see it in the figure 4.11. The air from the sea is called the sea breeze. To receive the cooler sea breeze, the windows of the houses in coastal areas are made to face the sea. At night, it is exactly the reverse. The water cools down more slowly than the land. So, the cool air from the land moves towards the sea. This is called the land breeze. When we come outside in the sun, we feel warm. How does the heat from the sun reaches us? It cannot reach us by conduction or convection, as there is no medium such as air in most part of the space between the earth and the sun. So it does not, the process of conduction and convection cannot take place. So how does it takes place? So there is a thing called radiation. From the sun, the heat comes to us by another process known as radiation. The transfer of heat by radiation does not require any medium. So in the process of radiation, it does not require any medium. It can take place whether a medium is present or not. When we sit in front of a room heater, we get heat by this process. So when we sit in front of a heater, so we get the heat because of this radiation. A hot utensil kept away from the flame cools down as it transfers heat to the surrounding by the radiation. Same for the utensils also. It transfers its energy to the surroundings by radiation. Our body too gives heat to the surrounding and receives heat from it by radiation. Our body acts on the same principle also. All hot bodies radiate heat. When this heat falls on some object, a part of it is reflected. A part is absorbed and a part may be transmitted. The temperature of the object increases due to the absorbed part of the heat. Why are we advised to use the umbrella when we go out in the sun? Kind of clothes we wear in summer and winter. You know that in summer we prefer light colored clothes and in winter we usually wear dark colored clothes. Why is it so? Let us find out. And there is an example of the above sea breeze and land breeze. The sea breeze comes from the sea to the land, and at night the land breeze goes from the land to the sea. This is the cycle: cool to hot and hot to cool. Activity 4.10. Take two identical tin cans. Paint the outer surface of one black and of the other white. We can see it in the figure 4.12. Pour equal amount of water in each of them and leave them in the midday sun for about an hour. Measure the temperature of water in both the can. Do you find any difference in the temperature in which of the can, the water is warmer. You can feel the difference even by touching the water in the two cans. So here are the two cans, one is painted black and one is painted black. We often use electricity and fuel like coal and wood to keep our house cool or warm. Is it possible to construct buildings that are not affected much by heat and cold outside? This can be done by constructing outer walls of buildings so that they have trapped layers of air. One way of doing this is to use a hollow brick, which are available these days. So to keep the building cooler, we can use a hollow brick. Activity 4.11. Fill the two cans used in activity 4.10 with the same amount of water at the same temperature, say at 60 degree. Leave the can in a room or in a shade. Now note the temperature of water after 10 to 15 minutes. Does the temperature of water in both the can feel the same amount? Do this activity suggested to you by the reason why it is more comfortable to wear white or light color clothes in the summer and dark color clothes in winter? Dark surfaces absorb more heat and therefore we feel comfortable with dark color clothes in the winter. Light colored clothes reflect most of the heat that falls on them and therefore we feel more comfortable wearing them in the summer. So it is clear that the white color reflects the heat and the black color absorbs the heat. So the container with black color will absorb more heat and with white color the heat gets reflected and the liquid inside will stay cooler. And same with our body also. If we wear dark color clothes in winter, we will feel little warm, and when we wear light color clothes in summer, we will feel a little cooler. Woolen clothes keep us warm in winter. In the winter, we use woolen clothes. Wool is a poor conductor of heat. Moreover, there is air trapped in between the woolen fibers. The air prevents the flow of heat from our body to the cold surroundings. So it does not allow the warm air inside our body to go outside. Suppose you are given the choice in winter of using either one thick blanket or two thin blankets joined together. What would you choose and why? Remember that there would be a layer of air in between the blankets. So here the chapter is finished and we will see what we have learned in this section. One sense of touch is not always reliable guide to the degree of hotness of an object. So our sense of touch is not very reliable to sense the temperature. Temperature is a measure of the degree of hotness of an object. Thermometer is a device used to measure temperature. Clinical thermometer is used to measure our body temperature. The range of this thermometer is from 35 degrees Celsius to 42 degrees Celsius. For other purposes, we use a laboratory thermometers. The range of these thermometers is usually from -10 degree to 110 degrees Celsius. The normal temperature of the human body is 37 degrees Celsius. The heat flows from a body at a high temperature to the body at a lower temperature. There are three ways in which heat can flow from one object to another. These are conduction, convection and radiation. There are three types of flow. In solid, generally, the heat is transferred by conduction. In liquid and gases, the heat is transferred by convection. No medium is required for transfer of heat by radiation. The material which allow heat to pass through them easily are called conductors of heat. The material which do not allow the heat to pass through them easily are called insulators. Dark color objects absorb more heat than the light colored objects. That is the reason we feel more comfortable in light color clothes in summer season. Woolen clothes keeps us warm during winter. It is so because wool is a poor conductor of heat and it has air trapped in between the fibers. So here the chapter 4 is finished and we will study the next chapter in the next class. Thank you.